So what really makes a champion? Is it some kind of raw, God-given talent you're just born with? Or is it something that's forged hour after hour in the gym, on the field, through sheer hard work? That's what we're diving into today, unpacking one of the biggest questions in all of sports. Are champions born or are they made? You know, this beautiful verse from the poet Malavi really gets at something deep inside all of us, this idea that we each have some innate purpose. But how much of that is destiny? That question, well, it's perfectly captured in the incredible story of one particular athlete. To get to the bottom of this, let's start with her story, the story of Iranian Paralympian Zahra Nemeti. It's not just inspiring, it really holds the key to understanding where talent truly comes from. So picture this. From just 11 years old, Zahra was an absolute force of nature in Taekwondo. She was this rising star with a black belt, just racking up championships, and it looked like she was on a one-way track right to the top of her sport. And then, at just 19, everything changed. A devastating car accident left her with a spinal cord injury. She was paralyzed, and just like that, it looked like her athletic dreams were over. Now, a lot of people might have just given up right there, but not Zahra. No way. She refused to let that champion spirit die. 2 years after her accident, she found a new path. She picked up a bow and arrow and poured every bit of that focus and determination into archery. And what happened next was, well, it was nothing short of astonishing. In 2012, she wins Paralympic gold in London, becoming the first Iranian woman ever to do it. Then she goes to Rio in 2016 and makes history again by competing in both the Olympics and the Paralympics. And just to top it all off, in Tokyo, she locked in her third straight Paralympic gold medal. Incredible. What an amazing story, right? And it brings us right back to that big question. Was her success somehow pre-written in her DNA? Was it destiny, or was it the product of just sheer, unbreakable will and relentless hard work? Okay, so to really unpack this, we've got to talk about one of the oldest debates in science, nature versus nurture. And this image, honestly, it just nails the core of the whole thing. On one side, you've got nature, right? That's your genetic code, the stuff you inherit. And on the other, you've got nurture, all the things in your environment that shape who you become. So, on the one hand, nature is kind of like your genetic blueprint. It gives you things like your eye color, your potential height, your basic body type. Nurture, on the other hand, is, well, it's everything else. It's your family, your culture, the coaches you have, and of course, the thousands of hours you put into practice. But here's the kicker, the part that's really mind-blowing. The Human Genome Project discovered that every single human on this planet is 99.9% genetically identical. I mean, think about that. All the incredible diversity you see in the world fits into that tiny 0.1%. Which means nurture, our environment, our choices, well, it must play an enormous role in who we turn out to be. All right, so to dig even deeper, we need to get really specific with our terms. We have to understand the huge difference between two little words that people often mix up, ability and skill. Okay, so ability. Think of this as the raw potential you're born with. It's something innate, inherited, like having naturally great hand-eye coordination or being super agile. It's pretty stable. Practice doesn't change it much. It's your body's hardware, right? The stuff you get out of the box. And then you have skill. This is totally different. This is the stuff you learn and develop. It's about being able to perform a specific task, like hitting a curveball, or in Zahra's case, shooting an arrow with pinpoint accuracy. It's the software you install on that hardware through practice, practice, and more practice. So here's the bottom line, the thing you really need to get. Your abilities are the foundation, your genetic starting point, but skills, that's what you build on top of it. An ability like quick reflexes could be useful for a bunch of different things, but the skill of returning a 120-mile-an-hour tennis serve, that is learned and it is honed. Okay, so if we've got abilities and we're building skills, how does that actually happen? How do you go from being a total beginner at something, just fumbling around, to an absolute master who makes it look easy? Well, that process has a name. It's called motor learning. Well, there's this classic model by Fitz and Pasner that says we all pretty much go through 3 stages. First up is the cognitive stage. This is when you're thinking about every single move. Then you get to the motor stage. Here, practice starts to smooth everything out, you make fewer mistakes, and finally, if you stick with it, you hit the autonomous stage. That's when the skill becomes second nature. You don't even have to think about it anymore. You just do it. And, not all skills are created equal. The environment you're in matters a ton. A closed skill, like Zara's archery, happens in a stable, predictable world. The target doesn't move. But an open skill, like soccer or wrestling, happens in a chaotic, unpredictable environment. And you have to constantly adapt on the fly. Okay, so we've got ability, we've got skill, we know how people learn. So how do the pros, the big sports organizations, how do they actually go out and find the next big star? That whole process is called talent identification. Well, you can really boil it down to two main approaches. First, you've got the natural method. This is exactly what it sounds like. A scout using their gut feeling, their intuition, spotting some kid with raw talent at the park. It's often just pure chance. Then you've got the scientific method. This is the opposite. It's data-driven, with structured tests and systematic programs, all designed to identify athletes with very specific abilities. All right, let's pull all these threads together. We've talked nature, nurture, ability, skill. Let's bring it all back to where we started and really deconstruct the greatness of Zara Namaty. This quote, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It says, talent isn't just about what you're given. It's about what you choose to do, especially when things get tough, when you're in pain. So when you look at her success, it wasn't a simple case of nature or nurture. It was this incredible, powerful mix of everything we've been talking about. She definitely had innate abilities, that natural coordination and focus, but she deliberately learned the skill of archery, moving through those stages until it became automatic. And the ultimate nurturing force? That was her own unbreakable will, her drive to keep going and redefine her own limits. In the end, what Zara's story really teaches us is that champions aren't just born, and they aren't just made. They're born with a foundation, and then they choose to build something extraordinary on top of it. Think of it this way. Talent, that's just the starting line. But it's your effort, your passion, your persistence, that's what actually carries you across the finish line.